If you haven't already heard, Google's putting out new features and new products on October 15th. I'm going to tell you what we can expect out of that announcement, and I'm also going to tell you a few things that I don't think you will have heard anywhere else. Hello Automators, thanks for tuning in again. I'm Brian from Automate Your Life, and today I'm going to take the frustration out of automation by predicting the future. Now, if we're talking about some of these products and features, well, there have been leaks, and specifically if we're talking about the Pixel 4, I mean, the whole device is out there as far as I'm concerned. But I think in this case, there are a few things that Google has kind of held close to their chest, and I want to talk to you about those as well as some of the very clear and evident things we're going to see. Let's talk about the easy stuff. So we already mentioned the Pixel 4 and the Pixel 4 XL, which we're going to see the new versions of on October 15th. This is really clear at this point, and we know that it has the new Soli chip. So that's the chip that is going to allow us to do kind of gestures or movements in front. So I think you'll find yourself the ability to do this with volume controls. Other system level controls I think will be the first things we'll see. And then I'm sure over time we'll see applications take advantage of these gestures. Now, that's not the same as what we have on a device like the Nest Hub Max. This is based off of a camera, and so you're going to have a relatively limited set of gestures that you can do here. That camera has to be working pretty hard to recognize those. Whereas this Soli chip, I think, is going to give us a lot more capabilities. A major part of the Pixel 4 launch is actually going to be more related to the Google Assistant. Now, we have seen huge adjustments, and even as I've gone through the Nest Hub Max here, we've seen the personalization, facial recognition, things like that. Those are all going to show up with your Google Assistant on the new Pixel 4 devices. But what we're also going to see is a lot of what came out with Google I/O this year, a lot of what they demoed to us. And that wasn't just simple minor improvements to the Google Assistant. These were massive changes to how you were going to use the Google Assistant. And there are a couple of videos already out there that have been leaked. They're kind of the promo videos that Google's put together for the event. And those videos show people doing things like sending messages very quickly, very easily to their contacts about what they're doing. They're also checking information with things like bus or train schedules or their own flight schedule, and then reusing that information in the next interaction with the Google Assistant. And there are other components that I saw were, again, similar to Soli at that Android system level. Google Assistant appears to be able to manage things at a system level. So they've really gone and integrated the Google Assistant to the point where you can change settings on your phone, put it into do not disturb mode. That was one of the examples given. That personalization component, again, it really lines up with what we've seen out of here, and that is what we are going to continue to see. We'll see facial recognition on this device and the ability to present you with information and options that are specific to you, things you're going to want. So you're not necessarily going to have to tap through your phone so much anymore. That's really the experience. Facial recognition plus gestures plus the ability to just speak to the device and make a ton happen. This is really paradigm shifting for a smartphone. Now moving on to the second device we're going to see. It is called the Nest Mini for lack of a better name right now, but this is something I actually told you back in April had shown up at the FCC, and that I was sure Google was working on something that was intended to replace the Google Home Mini, and that's what we definitely have. Now, what we've seen since that time is the replacement of 3 devices, actually. That's what I'll say this new Nest Mini is going to be. And people are kind of talking about, okay, it's a replacement for this, and it's going to have that 3.5 millimeter auxiliary port on it. So that actually turns it into a replacement for a Chromecast audio as well. The other component that really nobody is talking about is the fact that it's intended to replace a Nest Guard and be part of the smart home network that Google is starting to create. Now, the other thing is it'll be mountable on your wall. It has a wall mount capability or companion there, and we're going to see also how good the speaker is and what we're going to receive. We could actually receive 2 devices, maybe 2 replacement devices, but I haven't seen that yet. Which leads us to really talking about the third device that's going to come out, which is a new Wi-Fi whole system actually. Now, we're going to see a little bit more of an Eero take on mesh Wi-Fi here from Google, and they're going to include that thread capability. Now, what we're going to see is essentially a border router, or your router actually be a larger physical device than other beacons. And so what I think you're going to see is the single pack of Nest Wi-Fi, where you have the ability to just go buy one. It's the larger device, and it will not have Google Assistant on board because it's kind of intended to sit next to where you connect to your ISP. But what you will also find is the beacons, and these are smaller devices. I think they're going to look a lot like the Nest Mini in the end. They might still have a bit of a different take, but in the end, they'll perform a lot of the same functions, but they will also be that mesh Wi-Fi capable device. Now, again, those beacons will have the Thread network, and that means really, if you were to buy a number of these new devices from Google, a Nest Mini, a Nest Hub Max, Nest Wi-Fi, you're going to have a pretty full Thread network or set of devices that are Thread capable in your home very quickly. And here's where I'm really going to shift what other news sites and people are talking about. And this is where I get into that little bit of a prediction scenario. Now, the thing with Google is they're putting all this stuff out with Thread, and I think it only makes sense that they're going to put out some end devices now. And I think we're going to see a few of those here. I don't know how many, I don't know if they're ready, but I would expect to see at least the basis for those devices to be coming out. New Nest sensors, new Nest physical devices, locks, things like that. And this isn't just based off of a prediction because it makes sense. What I've actually seen in the past is how ready Google is to produce a lot of devices around what is essentially an SDK or a developer's kit for Thread products using the whole Nest system. They actually created all kinds of chipsets and all kinds of different platforms for companies to build off of. And they did this a few years ago, but they've been refining it and making it better, showing more manufacturers and partnering with more manufacturers. So not only will we hear about these new devices coming, maybe even have a few for sale very soon, but I also believe that we will see partner devices, if not just talked about, but we will actually see partner devices being displayed. A couple other things we're going to see. Well, we will see a new Pixelbook. I think a lot of people are excited about that. And Google Assistant integration continues to get better and better on devices like that. The other thing we're going to see is the Nest Hub Max come to more countries. I know Canada is on this list. They have trademarked that, and I know they have all the approvals in place. So we should see the Nest Hub Max at least come out to Canada, if not a number of other countries. Now, I don't have a list there, but I think this is going to expand and be ready for the Christmas season. Now, next week on the channel, next Sunday, I always do the news on Sunday, and what I'll tell you is there are a number of features that have come out for these products that are starting to kind of give us that light at the end of the tunnel and really show us what Google is doing. And there are some features that are going to be very impactful that have come out and with relatively low fanfare, or they're not talking about it. So I'm going to show you a bunch of new features next week on the channel here. So stay tuned for that. And then on top of that, I think you might need a little bit of a refresher on what is going to change with the Google Assistant. And this is really how the Pixel 4 is going to change as well. So go ahead and watch the video that you're seeing on screen. This is the Google I/O video from earlier this year. I think it's a great refresher and will show you the capabilities that you're going to get with the Pixel 4 and your Google Assistant overall. Until next time, guys, don't hate, automate.